The great American storyteller Kevin Kling talks about us being of clay. In referencing the Old Testament creation story, he says, because we come from the land and we return to the land. It only makes sense if we have some sort of connection with the land. Well, my dad's people are from Kilbirnie in Ayrshire in Western Scotland. And though we were born and raised here in Southern Ontario, I've been to Scotland a few times, and I've been to Kilbirnie. And though this might sound trite or pretentious, please take me seriously when I say that I felt a real connection with that land. Now, when my dad died, when he passed away, a good friend of mine, who had become a good friend of my dad's, wasn't able to be here to grieve with us because, as it turns out, he was, tramping around the west coast of Scotland with his wife. Now, because he wasn't able to be here, to mourn with us, he brought me back a very generous gift in memory of my dad from the Isle of Jura. And so as a result, Jura has moved up to the top of the list of places that I want to visit. It's this tiny little island off the west coast of Scotland. No more than 300 people. But it's absolutely packed with myth and legend and lore. As a matter of fact, as recently as 100 years ago, if a Jurak died there on the island, they weren't allowed to be buried on the island because the Church of England, in their wisdom, decided that it wasn't sacred, that it wasn't holy ground, and they would have to be taken off to the mainland or to one of the bigger islands for a proper burial. Well, the last time this happened, the family and the friends of the deceased had the body put in the box, and I hired a captain and a crew and rented a boat and set sail for the mainland where they could have a proper funeral, proper burial. Well, that body of water between the Western Islands and the mainland can be wicked and wild. According to Celtic mythology, this is where the sea witch Carlin washes the kilts of the gods. And according to the stories, she can really stir it up. So that boat was being tossed around in the water like a child's toy, like a child's plaything in the tub. The mast broke and the sails were tearing. The body in the box was sliding all over the deck. People were literally hanging on for dear life until the captain decided that there had to be a burial at sea. And so he said a few words to the family, offered up a prayer, and had the body in the box thrown overboard. And then he turned the boat around and fought that storm all the way back to the Isle of Jura. I can only imagine how happy they must have been when they landed that day, back on solid ground, back on terra firma. But their happiness would have been matched only by their surprise when they realized that they weren't the first ones there that day, that the body in the box had washed up ahead of them, that it returned to be buried at home. And the Church of England, recognizing this as an act of God, had him buried in the first of what's now about a dozen beautiful little cemeteries that dot that magical little island. When my dad passed away, I bought kilt pins for my brothers and I to wear to the funeral. We're part of the Clan Wood. The logo is a boat sailing under 3 crosses. And the slogan in Latin, it is tutus in undus. Translated, it means safe on the waves.